It changed my life. Okay. Me still processing her saying that I had a low sense of self. I was like, somebody sees me for me. Yeah, get into it. She did do therapy. I said, I was like, what is happening? Hello. Like I said, one of these days we will get the angle right. And until then, we're just gonna have to keep playing around. And yes, I am still doing my screen mirroring shindig. Very cool, very fancy, very innovative. I feel like I'm at the studio. So if you see me glancing down here, it's just because I'm trying to show you my whole body is proportionate and not that the bottom of my face is bigger than the rest of it, because in some of these last angles, do you remember that one video where it kept falling down and I kept having to move it up mid-video, and I was like, I'll just put you up extra high, and then it's like you're seeing this much of my face, and then by the end of the video it's here. So do things imperfectly. Just take action, put it out there. If you put it out there and you look back at it and you're not embarrassed, you put it out too late. That's what I live by. But today we're talking about what I learned in therapy when I did therapy for a couple of years. I have been out of therapy coming up on almost a year now. I learned some great things in therapy that I woke up this morning and just journaled. It just came to me and I was like, I need to tell them. I've got to tell you, girl. And if you have things that you learned in therapy that have been super helpful, drop them in the comments if you feel inclined to do so. But the very first thing that I learned in therapy that helped me so much was objectifying my inner child. Now, what does that mean? I also call it polly-pocketing myself. Basically, when I started working with my therapist, I was building my startup business. I was directly post-grad. I had suppressed, repressed traumas that I just really wasn't wanting to look at. I just thought if I did enough and produced enough that I would be worthy and could forget all about my traumas. I'm not going to say that's not how it works, because maybe that's how it works for you, but that didn't work for me. Just producing at such a high volume to basically run away from the struggles and challenges that I went through, it didn't work for me. It led me to live from a place of fear, and my body literally shut down on me. So can't do that. But when I was working with my therapist, specifically this one that taught me about objectifying my inner child, I was in a place where I was a newbie. I was a new novice in the world. I had just graduated. I had a petite BBA. I have a little bachelor's of business administration degree. I had a cosplay corporate. Was in a little corporate consulting gig, building my own startup, very new, fresh in the entrepreneur space. And I think when people look at a young, ambitious, intelligent, kind person, they can kind of project their own insecurities, shame, misery onto them. So people were saying very mean things to me, and I'm getting into how I objectify my inner child, but this is the backstory. So people would say things to me like, you're a loser, you don't know anyone in the industry, so you'll never get anywhere, you're very likely to fail. And it is a thing, like in the entrepreneur space, you do want to fail quick, fail small, so that you can learn from your failures and grow the business. But it was the condescending tone that people were using with me, and some of those people being my own freaking mother. But basically, I was just kind of getting a lot of hate. I was getting a lot of pressure, and when I would tell my therapist about it, she would just be like, she's like, why are you not angry about that? Why are you not mad about that? Like, if someone is condescending to you, if someone is essentially violating your sense of self, like, where's the juice, girl? She would tell me, she'd be like, where's your juice? Where's your fire? She's like, I know you have a very strong inner fire. And I'd just be like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel numb. Like, I know it's not true, so I'm not really taking to heart what people are saying. Like, I just feel numb. I don't really care about what they say to me. And then she asked me this. She said, okay, so hypothetically, imagine you had a daughter and you were a mother, and someone said these things to your daughter. How would you feel then? I said, I was like, what is happening? What is this emotion of anger that I'm connecting with? Because let's be real, I don't know how many versions of empowered anger there are out there for people to look at and have some type of representation in, which one day I hope to create some type of media form, whether that's, I would really love to create a TV show on Netflix, and be able to show people what it is like to have anger expressed in an empowered, healthy way, because I think a lot of us only see anger in very scary, unhealthy, detrimental ways. And it's like, anger is very valid. Anger, what I have learned, anger comes up for you because it is a sense of violation. There is something violating, and anger comes up as a protective emotion. Yeah, get into it. She did do therapy. So when I was like, what is this emotion of anger I'm tapping into? I'm usually never angry. I just kind of like shut down. I'm numb. I felt like I was the bigger person in being able to like brush it off, whatever. I know it's not true. But when someone is rude to you, when someone is condescending, when someone is trying to put you down, you should be angry. They're violating your sense of self. And I was so confused. I was like, how come I feel angry when I think about somebody saying these things to my, hypothetical daughter, but I don't feel angry when it comes to myself? Let me hold your hand when she said this, because I could have used her to hold my hand when she just told me this. She said, because your sense of self is so low. You have no respect for yourself. You don't think of yourself that highly. That's why you just shut down. And that's why you can't tap into the anger. But when you think of someone that you love and that you want to protect, that's why it angers you. When the same thing is said to you, you feel nothing. But when you think of it said to your daughter, you get really angry. And I said, okay, well, that's it for today's session. Close the laptop. I said, I'm gonna need about 14 business days to process what you just said to me and get back to you, because what do you mean my sense of self is low? I mean, it's not that big of a surprise to me. I've always been in a suey, delete kind of mindset. But at this time where my output and my volume was so high in terms of like getting the startup off the ground, getting good roles, good recommendations in the corporate world that I was cosplaying in, and also kind of making my way in like the spiritual community, I was like, what? This is mind breaking. It was crazy. So this is what she told me. She said, we need to get your sense of self up. We need to, this is another thing that she said, your tolerance for bullshit is on the fucking floor. People could literally walk into your house, drag their muddy boots in their house. She didn't say this exactly. This, I'm paraphrasing in my own language how I took in the information that my therapist told me, but it's basically like, people can come in your house with their shoes on. Hello, I'm half Asian. We never wear shoes in the house. We wear fucking slippers in the house only. But someone comes in your house with dirty, wet ass boots. They come on your white ass couch, lay you down, and they take a shit in your mouth. That is where my bullshit tolerance was at. Meaning that I could take extreme amounts of bullshit because I grew up with a lot of microaggressions, a lot of outright racism, sexism, gender-based violence. Like, I had it all. So I was laying on my white couch with my mouth open, just willingly letting people shit in my mouth. And that was my tolerance. My bullshit tolerance was so low. She was like, we need to build that up. We need you. She was like, I see this ambitiousness in you. I see that you are going places in life. And especially as a woman, as a first generation American, a daughter of immigrants, like, we need to build your bullshit tolerance up so that you don't take shit from anyone as you are making your way in this world and you are carving out your own peace. And I was like, okay. Me still processing her saying that I had a low sense of self. I was like, because like, obviously a part of me deep down knew that that was very much true, but to like be called out on your shit, you're like, oh my God, somebody sees me for me. So then she had me go out and she was like, I need you. This was the exercise. This is why I call it Polly Pocketing myself. I need you to buy a little Polly Pocket. You know Polly Pocket? Come on, you know Polly Pocket. We probably haven't had Polly Pockets in like 20 some years. But like, you need to get a little doll that you can carry with you everywhere you go, so that when people speak to you, or when you have uncomfortable conversations, or where you have conversations where someone is condescending, degrading, minimizing whatever you have to say, whether that's at the corporate table, the startup table, the spiritual table, the freaking dining table at home with my own mother, have that Polly Pocket either on the table with me, if it's safe enough to do so that, like, you know, the other party wouldn't like fling it off or whatever, or keep it in my pocket and keep my hand on it, and keep in mind when I'm having these conversations and I'm objectifying my inner child by being able to see my inner child in this Polly Pocket, it changed my life. It changed how I allowed people to speak to me. It changed the way that I spoke up for myself. I think even in the beginning when I had the little Polly Pocket on the different tables with these different conversations that I was having, literally from friends to family to the corporate job to the startup job to the spiritual community, I was always keeping in mind whether the Polly Pocket was on the actual table so that I could see it, or if I was in my pocket and I was just like holding it in my hand. I got this teeny tiny one. I couldn't find like actual Polly Pockets, but on Amazon, maybe I'll put like a screenshot here. I mean, do it with a rock, do it with a piece of candy, do whatever you need to do. But for me, I needed a little bit of a doll. And so I got this teeny tiny little doll. She came in like this spaceship little box too, but she was like this big. And so I could keep her in my pocket. And anytime anyone said to me, I would think about, okay, I may be numb to me because I have such a low sense of self-worth, but how would I let these words impact my daughter? And I remember the first few times that I would stand up for my daughter, stand up for myself, stand up for the inner girl inside of me, my voice would be shaking. I'd be like, you can't say that to me, or I don't agree with what you're saying. And you say it with your voice shaking and your knees quaking, and you think you're gonna have a panic attack, but you say it anyways because you're stepping up and you're being your own protector. You're being your own mother and father, because I don't want you to have a low sense of self-worth. And this exercise really helped me. So about 1.5 years of my life, I carried around this mini Polly Pocket in my pocket, or sometimes I would put it on the table if it was like a virtual meeting and you couldn't see that it was on the table. I'd put it out in front of the table, or I just had it in my pocket. And I remember this dramatically, I think the most impact that this objectifying my inner child, Polly Pocketing myself did for me was with my friends and my family. With certain friends that I had, I kept noticing that I was telling these friends how to treat me consistently over and over and over again. And the version of me that didn't have the objectification of my inner child in my Polly Pocket would just be like, oh, whatever, I'll just keep reminding them that like they can't say this to me, or they can't treat me like this, or when they say this to me, it makes me feel like shit. And then when I had that little freaking Polly Pocket, no, I literally am telling you, I'm getting up because I'm getting excited. And my legs are low-key falling asleep because I've been kneeling on them. Hello, I'm getting old. Wait, let me sit like this and extend my legs for a second, even though the angle, you're gonna have to bear with me with the angles. Like I said, one of these days we're gonna get it right. Today is not that day. But one of these friends, I remember texting this friend and being like, hey, can we have a conversation in person? Because I feel like the conversation that we had last week when we were hanging out was just bypassing and violating some of my boundaries. And then literally I had a therapy session and I got this Polly Pocket a couple weeks after the Polly Pocket came in the mail. I started using it a couple days. And then after I had sent that text about like, hey, can we meet up? It was going to be my third time meeting with this friend to tell them how to treat me. The same exact boundary that they had been crossing over and over again. This was going to be the third time that I was initiating the conversation to have about how this person to treat me. I took one look at that Polly Pocket on my dresser and I said, what would I tell my daughter? What would I tell my daughter? Because at that point too, I wasn't at the place where I could connect with my inner child so easily. So I had to put it outside of me as like, oh, if I had a daughter. Sometimes they say like, if you have a younger niece or you have young kids in your life, how would you go about protecting them? I don't have any young kids in my life. Come to think of it, when is the last time I've even seen a young kid or a baby? But anyways, I had to think about if I had a daughter and she had this situation with this friend and she came to me and she said, Mom, I keep having to tell my friend to not cross my boundaries and they consistently keep crossing the same boundaries, and I'm about to go have a conversation with them in person for the third time to tell them the same exact thing. I'm basically telling them how to treat me. Mom, what do I do? And I remember I looked at the text of this person literally texting me like, okay, like love you, like see you later, like when we talk later, and looking at my my Polly Pocket and thinking to my daughter, like, girl, no, you need to just block this person. This is not someone that is your friend. This person is showing you with their actions consistently for years that they do not value you. They, even after you've had conversation after conversation, you're about to make time, go out of your way to go sit down with a person after years and multiple conversations. You're gonna go sit down with them for the third time and tell them how to treat you again? You are 23, 24 years old and you're telling people how to treat you? No, I would never in that moment, I was like, I would tell my daughter to block this person. They are not a friend. They have not been treating her like a friend. You say love you. If that's how you love, that's not the friend's love that you want. That love may be great for someone else. That person may be a great friend for someone else. Not saying that they're a good or bad person. That's placing judgment on a person. But for my hypothetical daughter, this was my inner dialogue. For you, me literally talking to this little Polly Pocket on my dresser, I'm like, you deserve more. This is a shitty friend for you. This is a bad friend for you. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It doesn't mean that they've always been a bad friend. Maybe they were a really good friend, but you are growing into a different place in your life where this person is now a bad friend for you. And you don't owe them anything. You don't need to have one more conversation with them. Block them and move on, because you cannot control another person. There is discernment in having, open communication and discussing differences in a relationship. And there is a point, like, you need to discern for yourself, just like I had to discern for myself, where you draw the line. And for me, being able to make that discernment was with my little Polly Pocket, with my hypothetical daughter. And I know that relationship had to go. Another relationship had to go. Like, a lot of relationships just they just needed to go. They needed to go because I would never want my daughter to be friends with people that are using her, that don't respect her, that need to be taught how to treat her with the kindness and generosity that me so freely and naturally offers. I was like, no. And then, you're not ready for this one. I got a whole video about like decentering your parents coming up and like not villainizing your parents, but I think while I'm talking about the Polly Pocket version of myself and the task of objectifying my inner child, it dramatically shifted the relationship with my dad too, because my dad was like, he's dead. Well, he's mentally incapacitated at this point, so like halfway dead, kind of sort of dead. Isn't it kind of weird how people can be like mentally completely gone, but then they're physically still here? I'm like, what kind of magic is this? Somewhat, in a way, like a little bit of a miracle. Anyways, with my dad, if you have an immigrant father and you are a daughter of an immigrant father, and your father may come from a cultural background, may come from a societal norm where women are just like an accessory to a man, growing up in America makes for very disobedient daughters, let me tell you, because the cultural and societal clashes. Like in America, it's women getting their own jobs. It's women, having rights stripped. We'll fight for our rights. We'll get our rights back. I have hope. I have faith. But having a Middle Eastern father that didn't really see or value my ambitious career the way that I did at that point, having my little Polly Pocket when I thought about talking to my dad, first of all, I had no boundaries with my dad. I had no boundaries with my mom either. I think if you grow up with immigrant parents, you don't have boundaries. What the fuck are boundaries? Immigrants don't have time for boundaries. All they have time to do is work and then make you feel bad and make you feel like you're a burden because they've got to work to support for you. But it's all based on love. This is kind of tapping into my other video about like decentering your parents and to not villainize them. But back to the objectifying my inner child, this Polly Pocket exercise helped me develop boundaries, and it made me speak up and protect myself. Even in the beginning, I was speaking, fucking shaking. Sometimes I even had certain conversations and I walked away and I would play in my head over and over and over again at nighttime to the point where it made me feel nauseous. Like, was I too mean? Did I not say this right? And I just literally looked at the little Polly Pocket and I was like, you know what? If I can't do this for myself right now, I gotta do it for this fucking Polly Pocket, because I wouldn't let someone talk to my daughter like this, and I would stand up for my daughter like this, and I would want to show my daughter that she is worth protecting and worth fighting for and worth standing up for, and she is worth having boundaries so that she can preserve her sense of self. Ah! That felt so good. I'm so glad I got to share that with you. That was just one, y'all. That one was 20 minutes, but like, it really changed my life. That's why I had to be one. Let's see. The second one, this comes more from the like Jungian curriculum. Again, not Jung, like old Jung, but Carl Jung, I believe he's an American psychologist. I had said in the last video, or maybe a couple of videos ago, honey, we're pumping these out. I'm forgetting the order of when I said this in the last video, but Carl Jung's thing wasn't just about the dreams and the unconscious, subconscious, and conscious. It was really about integrating your shadows to be a part of your whole self. And so another exercise that my therapist had me do, because this is a great segue from the last one where I was like, oh, I would set my boundaries and then I would feel bad about it, or I would feel mean because it wasn't natural to my people-pleasing, self-abandoning addiction. And it was so Carl Jung thing was about integrating all of your shadows to be a whole part of you. So what does this mean? What was this next exercise that my therapist helped me do? Sometimes when you are dealing with difficult people, it is okay to lie. Yes. I know that may be groundbreaking, pussy quaking news, but yes, it is okay to lie. It is okay to be mean. It is okay to manipulate situations when it doesn't hurt anyone else and it's like preserving your sense of self. And so sometimes I was just in extremely difficult situations with people in work, in family life, and it's like, okay, these people are lying. These people are so in their own world. We can't even touch the same reality right now. And my therapist was like, you need to make a list of all these traits of yourself that you deem unworthy, or that you're trying to hide in the shadows, or the parts of you that you don't like, the part of you that lies, the part of you that wishes people suffering, the part of you that manipulates situations. Like, write all of these things down, write all these traits down, and then make 2 columns next to them. Make a column where it is advantageous and where using these shadows, using these bad parts of yourself, if you're going to label them that, writing down the ways that this protects you. And then on the flip side, writing it how it could hurt you. So for example, lying. Put down lying, right? I think we're all taught as like, kids is don't lie, always tell the truth, always tell the truth. But the world is a lot more complex as you get older. You can't always not lie. It's not safe for you to always tell the truth. So write down examples in the advantageous, protective category next to lying. How does lying protect you? In what situation? So for example, I wrote down lying. This was a part of me that I felt like I couldn't lie. I felt like a bad person if I lied. I would have anxiety and keep me up all night when I thought about lying. And I'd write down in the advantageous category, it is safe for me to lie, and it is advantageous for me to lie when a creepy guy is asking for my number. It is advantageous and protective for me to lie. It is safe for me to lie when blah, 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 fill in the blank, whatever it is. But basically, there are times in your life when it is important, it is essential, it is self-preserving to lie. And then on the flip side, when are the times that I don't want to lie? When is the times when I feel like lying hurts me? And so just writing down a list of all these shadow parts of myself, all these parts I don't want to look at, right? Because you kind of grow up and you're like, well, I don't want to hate people. I don't want to lie. I don't want to manipulate people. I don't want to coerce people. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to threaten people. And you grow up and life is, as an adult, if you want to keep living past a ripe old age of 23, Life gets more complex, and there are advantageous, protective, safe measures when you integrate your shadows. And then on the flip side, you can see when those are hurtful, but then you can integrate it into yourself. And this process is called individualization. It's taking all the puzzle pieces of you complex, multidimensional human being, yes, you, and you put them all together in a puzzle, and you are this like beautiful piece of art, you magical being. Okay, the third thing that I learned in therapy that was so helpful was all these thoughts of deleting myself, like sui, pew pew, don't want to be here anymore self, come from a protective part of my brain. And that it is my brain trying to, again, preserve my sense of self. My brain going, oh my gosh, she is hurting so bad. We love her so much. We think she's so awesome. We want to keep her alive. And so we think when she is violated and her sense of self is attacked and we have little to no preservation of self, then these protective thoughts of, I want to take my own life, come up. And hearing that, I've never heard that before. I always just had so much shame. I'm like, what kind of, mental illness do I have that I think about wanting to take my own life? But it's like, no, this is actually a beautiful protective part of my brain. And later down the line, I show myself other ways that I can protect myself and my preservation of self. But just hearing that for the first time in therapy, being like, oh my gosh, de-shaming all these suicidal thoughts and placing them with this like protectiveness it was really mind-blowing. It was like, whoa, can I at least remove some of the shame from that? And then also she would tell me like, so what if you took your life? Like, what if you had already worked from 0 to 1 and then you take your life and you think it's a solution in ending the misery or ending the violation that you're feeling right now, and then you come back in another life and you start back at 0. So she was like, getting from 0 to 1 is the hardest part, and they teach you that in like entrepreneurship too, and in business. Getting your first dollar is the hardest thing. Scaling from there is a lot easier than getting the first initial dollar. So if I'm already at 1, I'm already here. It's not to say that sui is a definite solution. That was very, very helpful. And the last thing, I got 2 more things for you. The other thing that she taught me was that people with narcissistic tendencies go for intelligent, kind, ambitious, young people who are insecure. That was me to a T. So I was attracting a lot of people with narcissistic tendencies. But there's a lot more nuance to that one. But I just had never learned why I was attracting so many narcissists and people. I start to say now people with narcissistic tendencies instead of just straight up narcissists, because when I was labeling people narcissists, it became like a me against you, villain against victim situation, and I just don't live my life that way anymore. That doesn't feel empowering for me. So now I lean more towards people with narcissistic tendencies. People can have extreme narcissistic tendencies, but if you ever feel like a magnetic pull to someone you just met who's so great, so awesome, and then you have a second or third conversation with them and you're like, wait, it's not as great, and not as, if we start at 100 and then the next time I meet with you and it's at a 91, and the next time I meet with you it's at 89, and the next time I meet with you it's at 70, it's like, ooh, okay, you got some narcissistic tendencies. You'll see that I'm young, intelligent, kind, ambitious, and insecure. You're preying into my energy field. Can't have that anymore. Not as young anymore, and I'm sure as hell not as insecure as I once was. Don't worry, I still got insecurities. We all got insecurities. I don't ever want my insecurities to ever fully go away. I don't know if there is life without insecurities, because again, it's this whole individualization thing. It's being able to recognize, okay, I have insecurities here and I'm secure in this, and holding the tension between both. That was like Carl Jung's thing, was like holding the tension between black and white, the yin, the yang, and coming together. And then the very last thing that I learned from my therapist, that is kind of my marker when I think of this therapist that I worked with, was there's a time and a place for everything. And that messaging was so very helpful, and I use it to this day. There is a time and there is a place for everything. And I think that really encapsulates and shows this like Jungian modality. There's a time and a place to be angry, and I think almost there is a time and a place to feel like a victim. There is a time and a place, boo-hoo, why me, da-da-da-da. I say it in my videos too. There is a time and a place to honor the stuff that is coming up for you. And there is a time and a place where you move on from that stuff and you get knocked down 8 times and you get up 9 situation. So there's a time and a place for everything. It also just helps for me remove the shame of thinking that I'm not exactly where I'm supposed to be, or that I'm behind, or this or that. So there's a time and a place for everything. If you are struggling with boundaries, with your self-concept, with self-worth, we all go through phases. Right now, I'm in a phase where I have more self-preservation, where I have strong boundaries, and in the future, I may go through like another ebb and flow, right? Like another valley and peak. I might go through a valley where I'm not as strong in my boundaries or whatever. But right now, I'm at a really strong place. I came from a really low place. Getting the Polly Pocket doll and visualizing my hypothetical daughter and like living for this hypothetical daughter of mine so that this inner protector of myself could come up. Because yes, there are bad things that happen in the world, and there are people that hurt you, and there is also, I think, when people hurt you, there is this opportunity for your inner warrior, your inner strength, this protector version of you to come up. It's important that the protector doesn't become the prosecutor and project all your traumas onto future things. Again, another video, but working with the Polly Pocket and living for my hypothetical daughter helped me develop a stronger self-concept, helped me get in tune with my self-protector, and then I was able to shift from living for my hypothetical daughter to living for my inner child. And I wish I had the little Polly Pocket to show you, but after I had my year and a half, 2 years, I think I did 2 years of it. And once I was done and I was at a place, I was like, I need to donate this, because I needed to take a fat break. And then I fell into a dissociative dark hole. But that's what happens when you like villainize and like live from a place of fear. But not saying that that's going to happen for you. Polly Pocket yourself. It's a great way to also speak kinder to yourself, to have more compassion, objectifying your inner child. Who freaking knew? And everything your brain does, all the thoughts that it has, is to protect you because it loves you. And surprisingly, it's all on the same team. I know for a long time I felt like maybe my body or my mind was working against me, or like my emotions were just like such a burden and my emotions were trying to sweep me under. Nah. Everything here is on the same team. I think you just got to work on the communication, getting the right communication on, and also hearing from someone like, hey, you're not out to get yourself, girl. We're just all on the same team. If you do end up getting a Polly Pocket doll and you try it, would love to hear your experience. Again, this is just my experience. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I did do years of therapy and I spent tens of thousands of dollars on therapy. So this is just sharing my experience. But as I say in all of my videos, I don't know if I say it in every single one, but I'm a really big advocate of you. I'm a huge advocate of you responding when you have time and energy. A big advocate of you taking in everything I say as just information and you feeling for yourself, does this sound true to me or does this not sound true to me? That's my biggest advocacy, is you and your truth. And at the same time, this is me and my truth. And my truth can be different from your perspective, just like your truth can be different from my perspective. Wow! I loved this YouTube video. I really loved it. I hope it helps people gain a stronger sense of self and set stronger boundaries and own in your power, even if it makes you shake in the beginning. Because I mean, hey, if you think about working out, like, you're shaking before you get stronger. So same thing with words, boundaries, and all of that jazz. Okay, see you in the next one.